Hello everyone and welcome to the Distinct Mastering YouTube channel. My name is Freddie. Today we're going to be talking about the UAD Empirical Labs Distressor. It's one of the most versatile compressor plugins out there, one of the quickest on the attack, and you can use this thing on all kinds of different sources. So let's get right into my session and check it out. Okay, so I centered this new track around using this compressor. I used it in a couple of places. Still working on this track. It's still in its infancy stage, so it's not fully mixed, but I've got the distressor in 3 different tracks so far in this session. It is on one of the claps, some of the hi-hats, and as well as one of the bass layers. And I'm going to show you an overview of the distressor and how I used it in this track. But I want to warn you that you can use the distressor on all types of source material. It's such a classic and great sounding unit. Let's get into the overview of the Universal Audio emulation of the Empirical Labs distressor. Okay, here's the session of the track that I created today for this video. I am working on this new tune and it's a great idea. I haven't got too far, but I wanted to share how I use the distressor so far in 3 different places. Let me play you a little bit of the tune so you get some context. That's what we're working with today. Cool track so far. I've got some more meat later in the track, but let me show you an overview first of the Universal Audio Distressor. Okay, here is the distressor, default state loaded up. Typical UAD plugins, you've got the presets right here and all of your standard controls at the top. Don't necessarily need to get into that. But right here, you've got your gain reduction meter, you've got a bypass switch, and you've got a power switch. The power switch will actually shut off the DSP. The bypass switch will leave the DSP running. So this bypass switch in the original hardware will just hardwire the output right and bypass all of the compression. And it's basically does the same thing in the plugin version. It does a glitch-free bypass. So the UAD DSP will still be running. If you do want to save DSP, you'll have to unload the plugin. But if you want to save your settings, you can use this power button right here. Now you've got a couple diodes right here to show you when you're hitting a little bit of 1% of total harmonic distortion and if you're redlining the unit. And then this is your typical ratio. Just a pro tip here, if you're scrolling through the ratios, you see it moves to the right, but if you hold down the shift button, you can actually go the opposite way. The same goes for all of these knobs right here. And what these are doing is this first one is just a high pass roll off. And this one is going to be a bit of a mid-range bump. This puts the unit into stereo link mode, and in the original hardware, you could link 2 units together. But if you have one unit and you don't have anything linked, by turning this on, it does alter the sound a little bit. If you read up on the UAD manual, it talks about this. And so this is going to give you a couple different tone controls for the unit. Okay, the detector circuit right here enables the side chain. So with it turned off, it's just in normal operation. And then this will enable a high pass filter at 100 Hertz. So it will just cut off some of the low frequency modulation. This will enable a band emphasis at 6K. So this is useful if you need to tame some mid-range frequencies in that area. This will boost it so it will react harder in this region. Then you can turn both of them on, and then you can turn on a link mode. So the original hardware was mono, and you could use it in a linked fashion with another unit. But if you actually didn't have another unit plugged in and turned it into link mode, it would dead patch the unit and create a different sound. What it would do would impact the total harmonic distortion of the unit as well as adjust the threshold slightly. So you might play with that. Just another pro tip to get a little bit more flavor out of the unit. And then you have these 3 distinct audio modes here where you have another high pass filter at 100 Hertz as well as 2nd order harmonic distortion and 3rd order harmonic distortion to add more grit to your sound. And just so you know, you can cycle through this and turn just the high pass filter on, distortion, high pass plus distortion, distortion 3, or high pass plus distortion 3. So you have lots of different options with this unit. Now, the if you notice, there's no threshold on this unit. There's just an input, attack, release, output, and then you have a mix knob to blend and parallel between the two. And you have a headroom control here if you need to dial in the level that the unit is operating at. But there's no threshold. Basically, all the thresholds are kind of preset. And if you notice at 1-to-1, all you're going to do is give the color of the unit to your signal. 2-to-1, 3-to-1 are good for tracking. I believe 4-to-1 is good for tracking too. 6-to-1 is a good starting point. They say 6-to-1, 5 on the input, 5 attack, 5 on the release, just like it was loaded up. That's the default state. And then 10-to-1 is going to go give you some opto compression. 20-to-1 and nuke, you're getting into limiting. And the nuke feature was designed for room microphones, but you can use it on all kinds of things. Now, if you do use it for room mics, they recommend using clean preamps because you're going to be gaining up the noise floor a whole lot. And same goes for 20-to-1. Anytime you're doing something like that, you're probably going to want to use really clean amps if you're doing recording. And the manual also does tell you how to recreate some classic compressors like the old UAD LA2A or a Fairchild. This thing can do a lot. And I do want to mention, before we get into what this thing sounds like, the attack on this thing is extremely fast. And at certain threshold settings, I think the higher ones, it can get even faster. I think it's like 0.3 microseconds. It's stupidly fast. The fastest compressor I think I've ever worked with, and probably most people have. And so with this thing, it's a really good tone shaping box. You can really dial in the shape of some of your sounds with this. So let's get into some of the sonics of this thing. Okay. Starting out, I have the distressor on this little clap right here. Here it is. I've got it on 20-to-1. The funny thing is I'm noticing, I don't know why this knob is moving. It's not being automated. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be. I've never seen that before. Personally, I'm a little stumped on that one. If you know what that is, why it's doing that, drop me a comment down below. I didn't read anything about that in the manual. But let me bypass this. And play it in context. Now let's turn it off. And what I want you to listen for is how it's shaping the tail. Notice I have the attack way up and the release is way up as well. So it's just holding on to that tail. And I'm at 20-to-1. So that's before. I've also got a little bit of the second harmonic distortion on. Let me bypass the unit with the glitch-free bypass while I'm playing the track for you. So this is with it on. Yeah, so you could see that the clap just really thickens up, but just the tail because of how I have it being shaped here. I'm going to switch some of the modes here. Let's go 10-to-1. 6-to-1. See, the total harmonic distortion is hitting harder now that I'm lowering the ratio. Back to 20-to-1. There's nuke. So the nuke is really killing all of the sound, but with the 20-to-1, it's kind of giving it this little pumping, grooving effect that I like. You could parallel it. And if you want to drive the unit harder, you could just turn up the input. And now that movement stopped. I really don't know why it was doing that. Apologies. Let's bring this attack down. There it goes again. So weird. I have to verify that that's not altering my sound. If any of you have experienced that, please let me know. And UAD, if you see this, please drop me a comment if I'm missing something here, because I do not have automation on this sound right here. So here is my automation, and you can see there's nothing on. So I'm a little confused as to why that knob is moving. Okay, so the next place that I have the distressor on is on this bass bus, and I kind of smashed some of the transients in the bus itself because I have a couple layers here, so I'll explain it to you. I have my Moog Model D right here to my right, which is kind of acting as my sub. I have a Silent, which is acting kind of as the mid-range of this bass, and then I have this plucky, detuned top, which is giving the bass the pluckiness and a little bit of width. And let me play it all. All of that combined, you get this. I'm gonna bring in the kick. Now let me go ahead and turn off this distressor. This is the one that's... As you can see, it's barely actually working. But it's doing a lot. It's got a lot of output. Off. So let's drive it in. I think I turned down some of the volumes of the track so it wasn't working as hard anymore. So let's turn it up. And I've got the attack at 3.5, a little bit over. Release almost at 5, output at 7. Distortion on the third harmonic. But what I want you to pay attention to, let me loop this section so it's just this bass, is when I shorten this attack, how much sharper that detuned bass gets. So listen as I move this up. Right there, you hear it? So right there, it's just taming it down and I'm getting more of my bass. So let's bring this to 0. So I'm getting a little output with this thing too. Now let's take the ratio to the right. Now we're getting a little more bass. At 10-to-1, it kind of loses its impact. So 4-to-1, 6-to-1 of the sweet spot for me with this one. Yeah, something like that. I like how it's hitting this total harmonic distortion just on the transients. And then if you notice the release time, this is going to control how quick it lets go, and this can be a tone shaper too. So I can find the right groove that I like in this bass. And turning the unit off. I like it right there. Okay, the next place that I actually used this also was in these hats. And I want to show you what I did here. This is just a little kind of a top loop hat percussion thing. And what's going on with it is, you see I've tapping the red line. I'm smashing it about 5 to 7 dBs. It just hits 7 dB on the transient. And I've got the third order harmonic distortion on it. I don't have this boost. We could try that. Let's play it in context with the track. And I'm gonna bypass this. Let's turn off this other hat. So you can see that it's, with it turned off, it's just back there. I have it turned down quite a bit. You can go ahead and turn this up. So you can hear it a little bit more. Bypass. Look, it's doing the input thing again. So weird. And the next thing I want you to pay attention to is how I have these attack and release settings. So the attack is sitting at 6.5 and the release is quick. So I'm just kind of shaping the tone of the transients, playing it again for you. You can hear it kind of just lifting it up. I do want to mention that I didn't put a vocal on this track yet. I was going to share an example of using this with vocals. You can use this with vocals. It's great for acoustic guitars, pianos, you name it. Whatever you throw at this thing, you're going to find a use for it. That was the overview and examples of the universal audio emulation of the Empirical Labs Distressor. It's another one of my favorite plugins. If you missed my video on my favorite compressor plugins, I'll leave you a link down below, as well as at the end of this video. Just check up there. And in the meantime, if you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, hitting that like button on this video for the YouTube algorithm, and then the bell notification will keep you up to date on future videos that I release. My name is Freddie from Distinct Mastering, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.